I've been an iPhone user for the last 5-6 years, and I've never considered the change. Well, that was all about to change because later last year I purchased these. This is the Xiaomi 11. To my honest surprise, it was actually quite surprising. There was a lot of features that I liked and I don't like, so today I'm going to share with you, as an iPhone user, what are my experiences is first time using an Android device, and a couple of features that I like on the Android device that I wish was implemented on the iOS. Quick disclaimer, I purchased this phone myself, no money changed hands, I'm not sponsored, so this is all my honest opinion from a first time Android user, so keep that in mind. Let's start with the things that I like. Well, the 2K display is definitely creamy. When I say creamy, 120Hz refresh rate just makes everything so refreshingly smooth. Like they say, once you pop, you never stop. So for me, this is always a welcome change. Going back to my iPhone feels a little bit awkward. So I've used this phone for over a month now, and it's been my daily driver along with my iPhone. I game, I communicate, I use this phone on a daily basis. At max settings, yes, the phone does get hot, but it's not so hot that it's uncomfortable to hold. Now, unlike the iPhone, there is no game throttling. At least I have not experienced it. For the last 1 and 2 hours of constant playing, I've been constantly getting 90Hz with no problems. That can't be said for the other manufacturers. Another good feature that I like is the Game Turbo option. I don't know how well Game Boost works because I've yet to experience any lag during normal play, so I can't comment. Now, another couple of functions that I think is good is the fact you can actually chat while I'm playing. So if you're like me, like to use WeChat, I can open up WeChat on the side. And this is a welcome function without jumping out of my game. Couple of other perks, you can change your voice through in-game. That's kind of fun, always tricking your opponent, not determining who you actually are. Though the voice seems a little bit warped and somewhat unrealistic, but it's always a good to have, but not necessarily something you need. And when the juice runs out after 4 and 5 hours of constant gaming, all you have to do is plug it into the fast charger. 55 watts gets you plenty of juice in the first 15 to 20 minutes, and you're up on gaming in no time. This is definitely one of the biggest game changers for me, and I've not experienced anything like this. In fact, I know this is not new technology, but it's definitely welcomed on a phone that you constantly use or game with. Now, apart from the game, let's talk about some other features that I really like. Well, first of all, it's this file management. Well, unlike an iPhone, we do have a file system. This is much more extensive, from your recent photos to your videos as well as your system files. And this is perfect for those who like to dig around and make customizations to their phone. Now, speaking of details, what I do use a lot is the notes function. For those sensitive documents or passwords you like to save, which I don't recommend you do, but just in case, you can actually save it as a hidden note. All you have to do is drag down and there you have it. Through a password, you're able to view all your hidden notes. Now, I know in iOS 14 now you can able to lock your notes and with a password, but yes, it's still visible for the prying eye. Speaking of notes, there's voice notes. So if you're in a lecture or a classroom, you're able to record notes as well as have a direct translation, provided that the translation is in your native language, so you can revisit later back at home. And speaking of customization, yes, that's always been a strong suit for Android. You're able to customize your background as well as your layout. And likewise with the MIUI 12, right now, you can also make adjustments based on the number of settings. You can also add widgets. And the good thing about the layer is it's not auto-arranged. What I mean by that is you're able to leave spaces in between your layout, whereas in the iPhone, it's always auto-arranged. Now, speaking of apps, a couple of other features that I like is the ability with dual apps. Now, this is not something new, but it's never available on the iOS. And for me, that was a welcome change because I have 2 WeChat accounts. So I can have one WeChat open, while my second account using the same phone, I can have a dual app application. Speaking of dual apps, you can also have dual home screens. So based on the password you enter, you'll be greeted with a different home screen, just for that little bit of extra privacy. A couple of other features that I really like. So for example, you can add a little swipe on the top left, so you can have access all your quick tasks. You can add tasks or you can complete a task just by swiping, and it'll hide on the top left. Super convenient. And its album feature, it's quite intuitive. In fact, it's actually quite smart. If you take similar photos of the same person or object, it's able to detect which one should be your favorite, or this is super handy for girls who like to take snaps of the same pose over and over again. Just make our job so much easier. And speaking of photos, yes, it does have so many different modes that I hardly ever use, but the good thing is you can shoot everything in manual mode as well as RAW, which is super helpful. I did not do any comparison on the cameras in this episode, but I will be releasing a comparison video between the Xiaomi and the iPhone 12, so stay tuned and hit that subscribe button if you want to see that. If you've taken a portrait photo, you can adjust the portrait or the aperture after you've taken the photo. All you have to do is click on the photo, click edit, and adjust the aperture per your liking. Pretty cool. And surprisingly, the macro is actually usable under good lighting conditions, something that's different and unique that you can probably use for your social media posts. And the other good feature that I like is the calculator. It's not just a normal calculator, it's a converter and a mortgage calculator. By that I mean you can enter your normal calculations and it's able to convert into your normal metrics. For example, Fahrenheit to Celsius, weight, grams to kilograms, inches to meters. It's all done within the calculator, so super funky. Now let's talk about its messaging services. Like the iPhone, it's able to filter out what it thinks is promotional or spam messages as well as the personal ones. I have a couple from airlines, telecommunication companies, etc. that I use often. So it makes it really convenient for me to look for a specific, say an airline or a message from a brand or a company. And like notes, there is private messaging. All you gotta do is swipe down and then type in a password that you've set and you can start private messaging your friends or whoever you want to have a private conversation with. And of course, if you have another friend with the Xiaomi, you're able to send free messages from one phone to another. I'm sure there are a lot more features that I've not mentioned, but this is what I've actually experienced for the last month of usage. And all of these features comes down to the package that only costs 4,000 RMB. And that is a steal of a bargain. But apart from all the good things, there are a couple of things that I don't like, and in fact I really don't enjoy. Unlike the iPhone where you can swipe type or a functional keyboard, maybe I've just used it so much. I'm just not used to the Xiaomi keyboard, especially the spacebar. It's very small and I often press the side buttons or a common button instead of a space, and then I have to go back and recorrect. That's time consuming and it's very frustrating. Second is the design. Well, as you can see, it's actually quite a good phone. The whole ergonomic is actually very good. In fact, I've quite used to the way this phone handles versus my iPhone. The only problem is the protrusion of the camera. In fact, I'm so annoyed that because the camera is so protruding out, the moment you put it on the table and move it around like I do often, I'm so paranoid that I might scratch the lens. Good news is I've yet to scratch the lens, which is a good durability test, but it's not something that I encourage you to do. And yes, this is still a problem if you put the OEM case that they provide in the box on. Speaking of the case, obviously they say this is the antibacterial case, but it's nothing special. And as you can see after a month usage, it is already turning yellow. Now let's talk about apps. There are less apps on this phone than it is versus the iOS, and that is expected given the amount of developers and the popularity it is in market. But that's obviously growing. But the one thing to consider is the stability of the apps. I've often experienced apps on this phone either crashing, freezing, or slowing down over time. This is not an often thing, maybe once every week, but it's a rare occasion, but it does happen. So it's something to keep in mind. And speaking of cross-platform, if you're a heavy gamer like I am and you have a lot of game accounts on your iOS or iPhone device, well, bad luck. You cannot carry those accounts across, at least not for my games. Now I've heard there's ways that you can transfer it across, but so far I've had no luck. Maybe it's my region lock, maybe it's some other reason. But for now, that's not possible for me. And that is annoying because I've purchased a lot of skins on my iOS device. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm sticking to the iOS device, not because of the games, but it's a whole ecosystem that I'm kind of entrapped into. Yes, entrapped into. Whether that's good or bad, I think I'll leave that up to you, because I'm so used to the way I am working with my Mac, with my phone, with my AirPods, as well as my speakers. It just makes it difficult for me to transfer everything across to a new device and start a whole new ecosystem when it's not really compatible with everything else I've got. But for me, I'm going to keep this phone because given the price and its value it's given me, as well as how engaging the game experience is, I think having it as a second phone is a no-brainer. Well, that's it for me this week. Hope that was insightful for you. Until next time, I'm George. Catch.